Here we go, guys, back after a weekend off. Feeling pretty charged here to try and ship some of these tournaments. It's 11 AM here, so it's a pretty good time to be playing. My schedule has shifted back a bit, so I'm sort of playing closer to what would be normal work hours for Japanese people. And so that means that most of the tournaments I'm playing, let me just think here, will be the tournaments that the regs in most parts of the world will not be playing. Canada and Europe and that sort of thing usually have they're finished up about now or a bit earlier, which is great because it means that we'll get some nice soft fields. Well, there are some nice soft fields, and that's been pretty evident. Been able to get some pretty easy scores. This is a pretty weird hand here, especially because I've just fired up the camera and been chatting away, and I'm kind of a little bit lost in the action. But I think we bet flop and he called, right? And so I think on that, given that action, I'm probably not quite ready to fold turn, because I think that he just floats a little bit too often, or just has... I mean, he shouldn't really be betting that much on the jack unless he's got 10 jack or jacks, which is just obviously a pretty small part of his range. He might just be betting a hand like 6s or 8s and 9s and just decide, as you know, once we check, it should be the best hand. So I'm pretty close on the turn. There was diamonds there as well and that sort of thing. In hindsight, probably don't mind a fold on the turn actually, but really very opponent dependent here. Depends on, you know, what he does, how he thinks, how often how sticky he is, how often he folds the C bets, and how often he's just calling pre-flop. We don't really have that much history on him, so it's really kind of hard to say. And we don't really know how thin he will value bet either. I guess he could have ace 10 or flop a set of 4s or 5s. He may have had like ace 9 of diamonds or something. And then, you know, now just go for value. It's a pretty tough spot, actually. I mean, it's a pretty bad board. Our hand's pretty weak, but I just... there's just not many hands that are that strong that should be able to take that line. You know, bet turn, bet river. Given the board run out, you know, the scare card's calm. Kind of looks like he's trying to represent those scare cards. He might have had a hand like deuces and turned it into a bluff. That would have been a nice play. Our hand did kind of look a little bit marginal. But I mean, we could have check called turn conceivably with, you know, an ace king, excuse me, an ace king or ace queen, king queen maybe. Probably be more inclined to barrel those types of hands, but he's not necessarily to know that when he's putting us on a range. I mean, I think he could be a good player. We're not sure. I just presume they're not at this time and at these buy-in levels. And it usually works out for the best thinking that. Bottom right, I mean, this guy's not that loose. We do have a6 suited, so it's kind of close. I think I just fold that one. And this guy's not really folding to that many c-bets, but I'm just going to bet small. Just hope. You could probably check back there, but, you know, I like to c-bet at a pretty high frequency, especially when players are defending with pretty wide ranges. Yeah. So I got a lot of tables on the go. So apologies if it seems like my brain is actually a DVD player and it's actually being paused or skipping and not not functioning properly. Just a lot of decisions flashing up, popping up, so to speak. Yeah, we do have sort of a bit of a bigger buy-in than we usually play in the top left, and that is the $100 rebuy. The reason why I played that is it's actually a very soft tournament. And now you might think, well, it's $100 buy-in. How soft can it be? There's probably going to be some decent plays in there. And the truth is, yeah, there's a couple of decent plays in there, but there's also a lot of fish. Wow, this is interesting. Oh, we'll call there. And a lot of people, a mistake that people sometimes make is to think that the buy-in is just going to reflect the skill level. So the $100 buy-in level's got much better players than this $22 six max deep stack. As a general rule, of course, it's true, but you want to be a little bit too careful, getting carried away thinking that all the time, because a lot of times these bigger buy-ins offer tremendous value, and this is one such time where we've got the later 100 rebuy. Most pros have kind of finished up their sessions and so forth. This is pretty interesting, this top middle one here. This guy, I think, is just kind of an amateur fishy type player. That being said, I think he actually has nothing here a lot. And he just thinks, you're just betting because I've checked. You haven't bet very big. Actually, I like his check raise a lot here. And if we re-click, I just feel too many chips are kind of going in unnecessarily. It's a bit of a spew. But he could be folding a decent percentage, I think. But he may just snap jam with, nut flush draw, or maybe he's just played, some sort of big pair trick, very trickery, if that's a word. I think it is. I'm going to use it. Yeah, I think that we can get kind of a better spot. I was tempted to check back flop. I mean, it's not too often players just give up straight away on that sort of flop. But, for whatever, they have their reasons sometimes, maybe he's just got nothing and he's just anything from seeing that, I've got the little one here because I've got 1 million lifetime achievement, 1 million VPPs, or maybe he just hates playing out of position. Maybe he just c-bets at a very low frequency. Maybe he thinks that I'm tight and he's defended, he's probably got a big hand. However he wants to read into it. It's not, sometimes they just give up. I fired a bet that probably could have been a little bit smaller, because if he has given up, then his hands, well, I mean, we're representing pretty polarized range, relatively. We either have a hand that's pretty clear value betting, or well, I guess that's not actually that true, is it? I really kind of lied to you there, didn't I? We don't necessarily have to have that much of a polarized range, because I'd probably bet any pair for protection there. And I may even bet ace high, just thinking I had the best hand and want to protect it. So that would actually be the opposite of polarized range. It would be a depolarized or a condensed range. And I'm actually quite a fan of condensed ranges, because they make you a little bit trickier to play against if you don't necessarily have the nuts or nothing. 3, 6, 7, and 1 is 8. 5, 6. Sorry guys, just doing some calculations. I see the old 3, 8 got us there. That's annoying. 3, 6, 7. I'm gonna have to call. Yeah. What was I saying? Oh yeah, condensed ranges. Yeah, so a lot of the times, just to give you an example, let's say you defend the big blind with ace-9 against a cutoff player who you think might be stealing, but you don't necessarily want to 3-bet it, and start a big raising war with ace-9. It's a modest hand. If you decide to keep the pot small, you probably got the best hand a lot of the time. So you make the call from the big blind, defend, and the flop comes 9-7-5 with 2 hearts. you don't have any hearts. You have top pair, top kicker. The standard line is to check. Opponent's going to c-bet most of the time. You're going to probably call most of the time. And that would be a more of a standard sort of line. But what would you raise in that spot? You know, if you had ace 9 on a 9-7-5 flop. You know, hands that sort of raise in that spot are normally polarized. They are normally sets, straights, two pairs, or just big bluffs like, you know, maybe king 8 where you've got a gut shot and an over, maybe with backdoor flush, that sort of thing. That's a fairly polarized spot that most players when they raise in that spot are fairly polarized. They normally have, you know, two pair or better or nothing at all. But what you can do in that spot is actually raise with your top pair. You can even raise with, you know, middle pair there in that spot, because your hand does actually need a fair bit of protection if it's the best hand, and is actually normally the best hand, because you're only against a late position stealer. You can often win the pot immediately, and it's very hard for you now to get folded off the winning hand because, well, I won't say it's very hard, but I mean, if you just call flop and he barrels on a bad turn card, you're probably going to have to give it up a lot of the time. Maybe not top pair, top kicker, but, you know, those sort of more middling hands. And so sometimes raising with those types of hands, I'm definitely just going to get this in because the cold caller behind is a huge fish. Actually, probably more worried about the initial jammer than the actual guy behind. The guy behind's probably got ace queen a lot. This guy could have tens or something, but we're not so deep that we're going to panic and get scared and fold. So it was even worse than I thought. It was king queen. So I mean, we were just all over them. So going back to my confusing story about condensed ranges, as confusing as as this story has been, I hope it just sort of at least now you know what people are talking about. If you didn't already, you know, when talking about depolarized or condensed ranges, those sort of middling hands that normally people just check call with, but in certain instances, check raising with them can be quite viable. As in the example I just gave, where if you flop top pair, top kicker, I mean, it's not necessarily a hand that you want to get deep stacks in, right? So normally you want to pot control, but sometimes you can check raise it. You know, if they call, then you can decide turn. Is there more value to get, or do you want to now check if he's floating? Check raises on the flop a decent percentage, or got some hands he might turn into a bluff. You can then check call, and you do put yourself sometimes in tricky situations when you do, you know, play a medium strength hand aggressively. You know, especially if you're against a stickier opponent, and especially if you're out of position, you can put yourself in some tough spots. But you know, I think that that's not always such a bad thing. You're not going to get through your poker playing days by avoiding tough spots. They're inevitably going to come up, and if you are an aspiring poker player, it's actually a good way, I think, to improve your skills is to step outside of your comfort zone and actually put yourself in some tough spots and try and make decisions. And you know you won't always make the right decision, but you can always learn from it. And that's definitely one thing that once you start opening with a wide range, and if you do start, as I was just saying about the depolarized ranges, playing them a little bit more aggressively, you definitely will find yourself, you know, getting in those situations where you're a little bit outside of your comfort zone and you're not too sure what to do, and that's a good thing. You don't want to be too worried about that because it's all part of the growing process as a player. And I'm still a lot of times, you know, make some wacky 3-bet with, you know, king 5 suited, and you know, flop comes 2, 5, 9, and now you're in this weird spot. Like, what do I do here? You know, and if I bet any jams, do I call or am I folding? What's going on here? You know, it's good to be in that sort of spot. I mean, not all the time, not all the time, obviously, but it's going to inevitably happen, and you need to start getting used to those spots. It makes you a better player. Or, you know, the alternative is you can just sit and wait for the nuts. You know, you could always just do that. But I don't think that's going to turn out very well if you do that. I think you might become a min cash wizard and make a very solid minus 10%, minus 5 or 10% ROI long term. Minus, that is. I think I'm just going to call. Bottom left, I think I'm just going to call. And we flop pretty big top right. Loving the defend now against Acesup. I don't know. Play against him all the time, but still can't say his name properly. I think just raising here as well. Do we want to raise here? Yeah, I think we're just going to jam it. Wow, I did not expect him to have a set there. Have to be honest, I did not expect that. I thought he was going to snap call with, you know, ace or queen with, you know, diamonds or, you know, top pair, maybe jacks, but yeah. I think I'm just going to check call bottom left. Yeah, wow, blazing away this guy, isn't he? I think I'm going to fold. I just don't think it's a board that he's going to recklessly barrel on at that particular size too much. And we don't beat anything that's value betting unless he's just a complete overplaying maniac with like ace 10 or ace 8 or something. But I think most of the time he's going to have sets, jack queen, king 10, ace, you know, two pairs, combinations, maybe pocket nines, stuff like that. What a nit. What a nit I am folding. Top pair, top kicker. And just going back to what I was saying earlier about the bigger buy-ins not necessarily having the best players. It's actually from earlier on, I plugged the tournament number in the Shark Scope, and you can do that just over here where it says tournament selector. Is it? No, find a tournament. Put in the number, gives you the stats. There was 9 fish. And there was only 47 entrants. So, I mean, that was... That, I mean, it had me at hello when I saw that. I was like, whoa, okay. This is a must play. And the average ability was 79. So, yeah, I mean, that's not... I mean, for this level of buying, it's low, but it's not like super low. But it's pretty good. It's the same as this nightly 40 grand. If I punch in this number here, which is actually kind of hard to do because you've got all these tables beeping at you, and we've got stack and tile doing things to me, and I just find it hard to actually even type anywhere. Donks into us. What just happened here? He just donked into us. I think we have to raise. Yeah, I'm going to raise here. When you see this donk, I would have preferred he was in the big blind because the big blind player will donk a lot more. The small blind player can actually have a little bit of a better range. We don't have much history on him, and he does actually look slightly tight. But the thing about these donk bets is a lot of the times they're kind of information bets. And so they're asking for information, and then you're giving them information. You know, yes, I have a big hand. In this particular instance, problem is just calling is we kind of look very weak and we cap our range, and I think they just blaze away whether they have it or not, or they just never fold it after that point. They just decide they're going to call down with any pair, unless you get the best board run out ever. So I do prefer just to fold straight away. Raise straight away, because We have the overcard, backdoor straight, we have a backdoor flush. If I had nothing going on here, like king, I don't know, king 5 of hearts, I'd probably just fold to his donk bet. But most of the time I'm going to be looking for an excuse to raise, and those backdoor draws and the overcard that I just pointed out we had a good enough excuse for me to get excited and raise. Having said that, they fold in that spot, I would say 80% of the time. Well, I tell a lie there, because big blind, when they donk out in that spot, I think they fold 80%, but small blind, I think it's probably closer to half the time. Obviously, this is speaking very generally, and it's going to depend on the player, of course, but as always, maybe he just plays his hands fast, likes to protect, and always has it when he donks there, but I think that a lot of the time they just fold. It's not the best board, I guess, but the other thing too about raising is if he does decide to call, we can get a lot of good turn cards that we can barrel on. And because we've raised flop, I think the story is more convincing. Whereas if we just call, and then the turn's a king, and we just called flop, and now he checks, now we bet, he's just never going to believe us. How do you have a king kind of thing? And you only called flop. Whereas if we raise flop, then he's going to be like, well, you could have had the overpair, you could have a draw, I guess you could even have kings, you raise flop, so you probably do that with an overpair. You could just have ace king, I guess, maybe. Like, they're just going to be thinking that, just there's more hands in your range that can actually be strong. Yeah, I think I'm going to raise top left. It's a pretty good spot to be raising, actually. Because I actually raised a little bit in that spot as a bluff, so it's good to have ace king in that as part of my range there. Sorry guys, just eating pineapple. And that's why I would 3-bet bluff in that spot. You'll probably see me do it a little bit where I 3-bet out of the blinds against an early position raiser. But it's only 6 max, and this guy's kind of loose, and he's folding to 3-bet set with a 58% frequency. And so he's actually kind of the ideal customer for that in this instance. 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, I think I'm just gonna take that. Oh, this is what I was just talking about, wasn't it? We've got the donk better. The problem with this one is that if we raise to like 14, we've actually put half his stack in, and we do have very few backdoors here, I guess. Do have 2 overs. Yeah, that's kind of annoying. He's actually getting good leverage with his stack there. He actually got really good leverage against us. It forced us to kind of jam or fold. Whether he knows that or not is open for debate. Chances are he has no idea what's going on, but yeah, it definitely made it awkward for us to deal with. But that's definitely a spot where, well, maybe not because he full potted it, but normally a donk bet in that instance I'll be raising most of the time. Like I said, with any excuse, any bit of anything, probably just raise it. And if I do have a strong hand, a lot of the time I'll just call, because they do bluff a lot in that instance, and just continue to barrel. And you do see it a lot, actually. I've already seen it a couple of times today, so something to look out for. So we're kind of doing okay in this top middle one, I guess. 10 of 34, still a little bit to go. It's only a small tournament, but pays the bills. The top left one it's really what we're focusing on, I guess. It's almost 5k up top, and we've got quite a soft field. We still do have some good players in here. JW Prodigy won an EPT San Remo recently. Well, this year. 2014, and yeah, Jay's 94 is always a bit of a thorn in my side. Big Mick G is the same, and yeah, there's a few decent players here and there, but they're probably the only guys. Oh, this guy's good as well. He's very good. He's been around a while, but he's pretty short stacked. we're coming second. So we're going to give it a, we're going to go for it here. But there's a lot of guys in this tournament that'll be Aussie Miko, like Aussie Miko. Like, I mean, Big Mick is a good player, but Aussie Miko, I don't know if you guys know. I mean, there's probably some Aussies listening to this. I just think that's a name, you know, that handle alone. If I just see that handle, you know, that screen name, Aussie Miko, I'm just gonna have a hard time thinking this guy's like a top level reg. You know, I just don't see it. You know, he definitely sounds like he's just having a bash, having a crack, as us Aussies say. He's having a crack at the $100 rebuy. Gonna smash it. And bring you some information to confirm one way or the other. Top level pro. Well, look, he's gone, so it's sad. It's sad that he's gone. He's left us, but yeah, he had not much volume and ability. 65. So didn't really have to be some kind of genius to figure that out, though, as I was saying. But I just think it's just funny how you can often sort of just get a feel for someone already by just the screen name in this crazy 2-card game that they call Texas Hold'em. It's kind of so much information there to use, even someone's name, you know. If someone has, you know, 1982 or whatever after the name as well, or 82, you might figure that they're, you know, that's the year they were born. 30, what's that making, 33-ish. Queen 10, not folding it. I'm just going to bet small. One interesting thing about this bet size is when you're playing against fish don't really have the mind, haven't developed the mind to process all the information that's relevant. And they do often just base their decisions on what is immediately in front of their face. And a big part of that is, perhaps the biggest part, is the bet size. So a lot of times when you bet small like that against, you know, thinking players, in that instance he's going to say, well, look, he's raised, I've only defended the big blind. You know, we're looking at it from his perspective now, and he's thinking, well, I'm probably defending pretty wide, he probably knows that. You know, the ace is better for his range than it is for mine. I can have all sorts of stuff. You know, I'm just going to, didn't cost me much to get involved and didn't hit, I'm just going to fold and wait for a better spot. But fish will, a lot of the time, will sort of look and go, oh, he's bet small. You know, I don't think he has an ace. I'm going to raise and try and win this pot. I'm going to represent. Because they don't think in terms of the multi-level thinking. They're not really thinking beyond that sort of first level. Well, second level, as I like to call it. Slansky would call it first level, but I would call it second level, where they're thinking about what we have. So they're probably thinking, well, look, I don't have much, and they're thinking, but I don't think he has anything. So thinking that about the other person, what they have. And then that third level is where someone thinks about, okay, I don't think he has anything, but he's not going to put me on anything because I'm in the big blind and defending with a wide range. They don't think at that level, and so they'll just raise and represent often a very narrow range, very polarized range, and it'll be very bluff heavy in a lot of instances. You see it a lot on, you know, flops come like 8-8-4 and you get check raised, or, you know, ace 6-2 when you get check raised, and, you know, they've got like 10 jack off and they just don't think you have anything, and they're like, hey, I'm going to win this pot. Or just donk off a whole bunch of chips trying, sort of thing. Yeah. Just kind of playing a little bit, well, I wouldn't say carefully, but yeah, I mean, this tournament top left, I think we're going to get some pretty good spots. We do have JW Prodigy on our right, which is pretty good. And this guy I've got marked in red, so that's pretty sick. Well, 2 UTG, 5, 16. This guy a little bit tight. This guy a little bit of a loose cannon, but I think when you put them together, bottom left, I'm going to fold. I'm going to call off if this guy had have jammed, and if he jams on us, or raises, they're definitely going to get it in with ace-10 suited against this guy. A little bit of a loose call here. I'm going to make this call. Are we going to call here? Not quite, pretty close. And again, I'm just going to make a small bet here. He's probably going to float a little bit here. And he snap folds. That's why I said it. Because I knew if I said it, he would just snap fold. If I had said it was going to snap fold, believe you me, he would have floated. You can't jinx these things. Yeah, I think we're going to go for it. Why are we going to go for it? Yeah, I think we are. Are we? Yeah, I think we will. Wow, what a flop. This is an instance where, I mean, we have a ton of outs, but I actually don't mind. How am I going to play this? A little bit small here. I actually don't mind gambling a bit here in this instance, because I just kind of want JJ Prodigy out, you know. Even though, I mean, we do kind of have position on him, top couple of his left, but I just want him out. So, you know, if he's got 9s or 6s or something, if he's got a set, you know, I mean, 7-8 suited or something, it's just bad luck. We've got a lot of equity. And, yeah, I mean, we could have been crushed all the time. And that's really what we wanted. And I got so excited I timed out over there. Yeah, the ace-9. I mean, this guy's only stealing 15%. I'm 23 now, so... And he had... Yeah, it was pretty close. I probably should have threw that small to fold, but it's pretty gross. Ace-9 against a button steal. 3-bet folding, but... And I didn't want to call with it out of position. I was kind of... You know... I was in two minds. And so I just gave it up. Don't think it's that bad, but if I had the hand again and more time, and I wasn't excited about the flush, over flush, yeah, I think 3-bet very small. Probably go with 3-bet very small. Expect to get some immediate folds, and I'm going to limp here. And sometimes we'll just call, and then we can take it down with C-bet. I think there's too much point raising top middle, because this guy just never folds, so we might as well just call and try and hit. Especially with a hand like 3s, and if they do raise, we can then call and speculate. 6-10 and he fires again. He donked into us. 7-8-9 doesn't donk with an ace. I think we probably raise here. Well, actually, I might wait. It's pretty close. I'm not going to try and bluff top middle. Top left, though, was pretty close. I think he's got a 9 a lot there. And The thing is that I don't know anything about him. We can kind of pretty credibly represent that we have an ace there. We could call. I mean, we can sometimes have the best hand. Actually, it's a really interesting spot, I think. We do have the best hand some of the time. He could just have donk bet. I was talking about donk bets before. He could have a similar sort of hand. It might have him out kicked. But I think in general, if I'm going to play that hand to river, I'm probably going to raise turn. Because I think that sometimes we can fold out a 9. And sometimes he just folds anyway and we just protect our hand. Yeah, we can fold out better as well. So I think it just works better turning it into a bluff, to be honest. Wow, what a board run out. I think just betting small here, trying to get called by 10, I guess. Yeah, hopefully he doesn't have a queen. He could actually have a queen, but we'll find out soon enough. Wow. Wow. I think I'm going to min raise here. This bottom middle is just kind of a weird spot where I don't think he does this with like ace high. I don't think. I think if he has ace high, he might just call. And so I just wanted to, I think he's 3 bets pre-flop. On the button, I think we actually do have the best hand, a decent amount on this flop. It kind of looks a bit fishy, but I think it's actually not bad. Wow, 9's I think I'm going to call, because I think we get very good information there. I just don't think he's going to just shove in. I could be wrong, but I don't think he's going to just shove ace queen there in this 162 nightly, I think. Once we check min raise, I just don't think he is, but I think if he's got ace king, he's going to side fold. 7, 8, 8, 9, 8, 10. I think he's missed clubs, top left. I don't think, I mean, he could have like a 6, 7, maybe we can get value from that. But he could just have overcalled with ace high and then picked up diamonds on the turn. Somehow. Yeah, I don't know what he was doing there. That guy actually, I kind of regret the way we played that 6-10 before. I think I definitely should have raised turn. And if I had more time, I would have, but I've got to try and zone in a bit more here. Not quite playing. Not playing with it very well. Just playing like a massive donkey at the moment, but I'm sure we can turn it around and play just like a semi-donkey. It should be good. Be a good start. But yeah, the 6-10 I think is a must raise. I think actually this guy is actually, I'm going to check, but I think he's actually a bit of a donk, to be honest. I know nothing about him, but just the way he's playing so far seems massively donkish. Let's just check. Ability 69. So this guy's actually, he's actually coincidentally exactly what I was talking about. I mean, this tournament is a $100 rebuy, and it's got a lot of donks. This guy is supernova, and he's a donk. And, that's what I was just saying about you can't necessarily use the tournament buy-in always as a complete and accurate gauge for, the level, the skill level of the players, and the same with the rankings. I mean, this guy just obviously probably plays a lot. It doesn't necessarily mean he's good. Generally, yes. I mean, generally speaking, but, this is, as we know, a game of information. We have to collect and process all the information we can, and you can't simply just draw the conclusion. And it's one of those times when you just can't draw the conclusion that, hey, it's a bigger buy-in, it's going to be all the top players, or, oh, he's supernova, he must be good. Because I assure you there is a ton of supernova fish. And one of them today is Aces_up 4108. But I'm going to put my pro cap on and try and turn around, take off the fish hat. This is a really good spot, top middle. I mean, I just want to take this guy to Funky Town because this is one of those situations where, you know, you don't want to miss that opportunity. This guy isn't one of our targets. I mean, he is a massive donkey, and he's just going to call down there with any top pair and any middle pair, any queen. I think he's going to call 3 streets. So we just want to go for max value because we have the best hand so often. There's a bunch of draws he can have as well. And so you notice I didn't mess around either on the flop. You know, I did just bet pretty hard. Just started trying to build. And bottom left, I think he might actually check raise here a little bit because he gets pretty good leverage. I think he might make it like 2,900 a bit of the time. And if he does that, you know, we just have to fold. But I didn't want to check back flop. Interesting that he actually calls. I actually thought he was just messing around pre-flop. He's pretty loose. He's 3-betting at a really high percentage so far. He is a bit of a donk, but it does say he folds the 3 bets, so I figured he probably folds the 4 bets. I think it's probably okay to bet again here, but I wouldn't say it too confidently because he actually might even have ace-queen some of the time if he's fishy enough. It feels like he's got... This is the best if he's got like black 10s. I feel like he's got 9s, 10s, maybe even jacks some of the time. I guess he could have had like ace king with the king of hearts. Just wondering if he's got a hand he can turn into a bluff here. What can he have here that does this? Can he have a hand he's turning into a bluff? Can he just flop the flush? Now bet. Ace jack with jack of hearts. He didn't show us. That's disappointing. I was hoping he might show us. Yeah, I think he's bluffing now. I mean, I know a lot of times players don't show, but this type of recreational player, I think he might be pretty proud of himself and just show it. That's a really close spot, I think. He could be trapping some of the time. It's a pretty deep stack we have to be getting in there, but I think against a big donkey like that, I'm actually going to call here. Call to hit. It's a little bit gross because we're short, but I just think if we can hit a queen or king or a flush draw, we can just always get it in against pairs that we have great equity against, because they can't fold because we have an SPR of under 1. But at the same time, it's a bit gross. It's kind of a bit gamblish. But you know, you can see we had the right price with the right equity against these hands. And if the flop comes queen 7-2, I mean, Jack's just never going to fold if we just jam flop or turn or whatever. But some of the time they can have ace king or ace queen, so I mean it is a little bit risky. And we did have to call a chunk of our stack, so it was, yeah, it's a pretty meh spot. I think folding is definitely okay. And I kind of gambled, just sort of took a shot, you know, to try to get some chips, really. I mean, at the end of the day, I just, yeah, we're getting kind of short, and I just thought, hey, let's just try and get some chips here. This is kind of a weird limp here, and I don't think I'm going to fold if he jams, if he's check jamming us. Because I think he can do it with like 6s and maybe ace 9 suited and stuff that we have decent equity against. And I don't think, although I could be wrong, I don't think he's going to do it that often with like queens, but I mean, maybe he does, but I don't really want to isolate a fishy limp and then fold to a jam from cutoff. If it's UTG, of course I would. And it also makes you look pretty tough when you snap call a jam with king jack off. And it's all really about the toughness. And he just folded. Which is what I think he's going to do most of the time. So yeah, that king queen, kind of ugly before, but The thing about tournaments is you just don't have a lot of time, you know, it's just, as you've heard me say before. I've heard it being compared to, you know, a marathon, but completely disagree. A tournament is a crazy sprint to the finish line. You have very few hands and you have to get billions and billions of chips, all the players' chips. You know, we got 100 and we had 212 runners in this tournament. We have to get every single chip in about 500 or 600 hands. I mean, that's not easy to do. And you don't do it by folding. And so I did gamble with the king-queen suited. As it turned out, I mean, we had a really good equity. It was kind of a best case situation, but we did have really good equity. And if we had a hit, we would have got some chips. But we didn't, so we folded. Sometimes I think it's not too bad necessarily to do that. Because like I said, you know, you got to find a way to get chips, and we don't have a lot of time left here. I mean, jamming, I mean, is even not that bad with that hand. I mean, we could even have just jammed it in, but I think the strength that they were showing, and the fact that the SPR is going to be under one post flop anyway, you know, I don't feel too bad about just calling to hit in that particular instance, you know, with that stack depth. It's kind of like when you defend from the... It's kind of like when you defend from the blinds, when you're kind of getting a little bit short. You're just sort of working more off sort of the pot odds. And the immediate express pot odds is sort of what you're mostly taking into account. Letting them dictate your decisions because they're just so favourable. And you're so short, there aren't very many negative implied odds. You just kind of a simple hit or miss game. But yeah, it's just a pity it's my favourite tournament. This bottom middle one, I've won it 4 times. Well, I haven't actually won it 4 times, but I think I've won it 3 and chopped it once or something. But 4 times I've either won or chopped first prize. And wow, wow, I'm just gonna jam. Well, we're gonna jam. I think we're gonna jam. Yeah, I don't love it, but I mean, I think we can just hit and win. And I just want to see that hand again, actually. Let's see. Yeah, he does actually look pretty strong. That's probably pretty bad. Yeah. It's probably pretty grotesque play. But, that just proves the theory that even donks can get lucky, I guess. Yeah, I mean, it's limp, isolation, re-raise. I mean, he did look pretty strong, I guess. Couldn't quite get myself to fold top middle. This depth, this hand, min-raised in the big blind. Decided to peel and see what happens. And I guess we're not really going anywhere yet. Don't really want to raise it. This guy has a little bit of a range, but it's certainly by no means crazy. I think we can probably donk small here. Because I think he's going to have a hard time folding any pair. Like if he's there with 10s, I think he's going to have a hard time folding. And if he does have a king, like ace king, king queen, I mean, he's probably going to get all the beans anyway. So, not too much sense in pot controlling. Might as well go after the chips for the outlying hands that he can have that give us action. And I don't think he's going to double barrel. If he's got ace jack, if we check, I think he's going to check back. True, sometimes he'll hit an ace or a jack on the river, and we can get a little bit of value, but I think most of the time he just checks back turn because it's such a bad card to barrel on. Because, you know, we either have a king or a pair that's not folding, so which is a terrible card to barrel on, so 6, 7, 8, 16, 24, yeah, so I mean that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Wow. That was a pretty impressive hold there, wasn't it? Top right, but it is only a... Ooh, should have jammed the bottom middle. That was a bit bad. Yeah, I mean, just the equity that we're getting is just SPR close to 1. I mean, sometimes they'll have, you know, 10s or ace-jack or whatever, king-jack. But it's just one of those things that... we are so short, we don't care. We're just going to get chips in. The problem with the, you know, the checking is that, I mean, it's good if this guy bets with some, you know, bad hand that then we can get to call off. Like if he bets with like 5s or that's what I was just going to say. Is the problem with checking is just the whole deck's bad as a turn card, the entire deck, especially the ace. So now we're going to have to fold. So I wish I'd have jam flop. Yeah. Yeah, I think this is a pretty good spot here against this guy, especially to go for a... I'm gonna try and make it like I'm not like try and make it kind of a large looking over 1,000. I think players are more inclined to think kind of why is he betting that big? I think they kind of think. I think they can think that it actually looks 6, 24. Looks weaker than a smaller raise in a lot of instances. If I had made it, you know, 9, 8. If I had made it 9, 8, 5 or something, you know, I actually think that can look a little bit stronger. This is not a great spot, you know, but we're just so short. I mean, it's okay, but this guy's not that loose. He's actually slightly loose, but... And this guy's not that loose either, so it's kind of... what am I talking about? It is a sensational spot. It's the perfect spot to get the money in. 8s against 7s. Obviously quite lucky there to run into one of the few hands that we had crushed. Most of the time it would have been a flip. That ace queen before top left, you know, the button player looked like he was just stealing. If we have history, he might think I 3-bet fairly liberally. He had right in that second pivot, M12, where he can easily 4-bet jam us with a lot of hands that we dominate. I was hoping that would be the case. And that's what I was getting at before when I was saying, you know, we can raise a little bit larger to make it look weaker, you know, rather than making it look like we're crying for a call. But it's really open to interpretation. You know, player, he might just think it's a larger raise, we're more likely to commit. I normally think sort of the opposite, that, you know, in terms of metagame, when they raise larger, it's probably because they don't really want you to 4-bet. They're trying to deter you. They're trying to make themselves look more committed. But then there's another level again, which is what we did then, is try and actually, you know, try and make it look large, so that he might interpret that as weakness. Well, I mean, that's what I was saying, but you know what I'm talking about. Come on, don't do this to me. Yeah, I mean, just talking about metagame, you know, just a kind of, what level are they at, you know, is very, in that case, no, I presumed he was a decent player. His stats seem decent. I've got a lot of history on him. So I just presumed he was probably decent, and might therefore interpret the little bit larger raise as weakness. But a player not thinking at that level might just think, oh, he's raised bigger, he's probably got a stronger hand. And a player thinking a little bit deeper again might actually think aces up is raised big. Why has he done that? He's probably trying to look, weak, like he wants to fold when he's actually strong. And on it goes, that sort of meta game, the levels of thinking and interpreting the information that's there. So on that note, let's finish up this very messy level of play. Probably played, I'd like to say I played my B game, but I think actually I'm down to like C or D at the moment. I may even have got an F that class and failed. But nonetheless, we still actually have some chips top left and top middle. And we got a little bit of a good spot to get a few chips back in the nightly 40 grand in the bottom middle there. And so we're going to keep plugging away and try and finish off with a bang. And I'll bring you more action after this break.